Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome once again to another project management expert interview about the uptake of AI in project management. I'm really excited today to sit with Mazin, who's dialing in from the Middle East. Mazin, could you just introduce yourself quickly, please?
Sure. Mazin Gadir. I'm based out of Dubai. I've been in the wonderful Emirates of United Arab Emirates for the last 45 years. I've been in the digital transformation project management field for almost 23 years. Mostly managing and helping digital transformation in healthcare. And basically, we have been working on a number of projects on a governmental area, governmental sectors, as well as
Oh, you've frozen, Mazin. Yeah, Mazin, the Wi-Fi's gone. Mazin, the Wi-Fi is frozen completely. Can you hear me? Hi, Mazin.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Yes, I'm
Hi.
back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're back, but the screen. Oh, now you're back. I was going to say halfway through when you were speaking, it completely froze on screen, and then your voice went as well. Do you think it's
Okay.
stable? Do you want to dial back out, dial back in? Because we might as well start again, I think.
Sure. Now it is stable, and I'll go ahead. I've moved into my hotspot, so it's much better, much more stable.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to literally start at the beginning again, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
excellent.
Yes.
Okay, here we go then. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome again to another interview from a global project management expert. Today I'm joined by Mazin, who's going to tell us about his thoughts around AI in project management. Mazin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Mazin Gadir. I'm based out of Dubai. I have been living in the UAE for almost 45 years. I've been in project management and digital transformation for the last 23 years. Mostly the healthcare sector has been the field of my expertise, but I've also spanned across multiple other sectors. I've been also volunteering and part of the board of directors for PMI, Project Management Institute, UAE chapter. I've been living in the UK for some time, working in digital transformation projects across Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Australia, actually. So that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what your experiences are and your views around AI in project management. I think here in the UK, we have a natural tendency to wonder what other parts of the world are up to in this space. So I'm going to dive in with my first question, which is, what use cases do you see around AI in project management?
I think a lot of the use cases that I have been using myself, for example, in the area of risk management, risk register, the area of lessons learned, and the idea of actually finding benchmarks. One of the tools that we have been using, the likes of ChatGPT, the likes of Bard.Google. As well. I mean, those tools have been very useful for us to try and look at similar risks that has been achieved in across a number of projects. Also look at some of the lessons learned when it comes to risk mitigation, risk forecasting for similar projects. Get content and templates as well. It helps a lot in the area of templates. It helps a lot where actually you're trying to tweak some of those approaches and methodologies. Personally, I've used it tirelessly, specifically when it comes to templated kind of files or folders, specifically coming in also with doing some literature review and background, checks. It helps a lot. It also helps in the area of vendor, when you're dealing with major projects where you have to do vendor management. So looking at templates for contracts and due diligence steps, very useful in that area.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm going to dive into some of those as we talk, and if we just unpack those slightly in terms of, obviously to you and I, there's probably some obvious benefits there, but is there, is there some headlines that you want to just stress to the listener?
To be honest, yes. I mean, you look the use of AI tools in numerical calculations when you're actually looking at projections for resource utilization, timeline, forecasting. There are a number of very good AI tools that are actually coming up, helping you with helping you out with Excel sheets, formulas, and whatnot. I'm also a big fan of templates. So if you actually try to do some status reports in a nice PowerPoint presentations and templates, tome.app as actually are some of those great templated AI tools that helps you get some information. I'm a big fan of note taking. And meetings are attended by my AI assistant. Again, Fireflies or Read.ai. These are absolutely great tools that help you, especially when you are managing remote resources in the area of note taking. You're keeping a track on meeting notes. Again, some really amazing AI tools that are right away you can use off the shelf.
Yeah, I was going to say those more eagle-eyed can probably see them on screen now. They're recording this conversation, so no swearing, please, caller. For me, that sounds like the headline is all about efficiency, doing more quickly, as it were.
True, absolutely. And by the way, I mean, while you're engaging your clients, you're actually able to dedicate your time to focus on that. There is a number of tools that help you speed up content creation, content presentation, tools that could help you with note taking, with the meeting organization, and I think it clears your time to focus on your people skills and managing your stakeholders, listening to your stakeholders and whatnot.
It sounds to me like you've really embraced this new set of tools, and like you said, it then frees you up to do more stuff. And I would anticipate that a lot of people watching this are possibly just starting to experiment or think about some of these tools. It sounds like you've already got there. Is there a big lesson you found, in terms of it? Is it experimentation? What's been your experience?
I think being adventurous and basically touching those new tools, keeping up with what is happening around you. I'm picking up mentors from a younger generation that are enabling me to learn those tools, staying very close to entrepreneurial communities that allow me to get an understanding of what are some of the new tools in around the block. Right, and you see a lot of it. I'm using a lot of social media input as well. I'm looking for social media posts that introduces new tools. Again, the other day I was just looking at social media posts in Instagram, and you get all these amazing posts. Okay, if you want to save up some time, go into this tool for templates, for PowerPoint templates or Word document templates. You wanna be super fast in the area of, for example, Excel sheets and writing those equations. You don't need to memorize it no longer. You just need to type it, and some of those AI tools that are embedded, copy paste some of those programs into your Excel sheet coding mechanism, then it issues out what you need to do. And again, it's just being experimental, being non-judgmental, right? Trying to dive into it, test it out. It's basically, it's very rewarding, especially when you start adopting. Yes, some of them are subscription based. Again, you might need to look at the benefit, long-term benefit. Notes taking is an area that I have used a lot, and it helped me a lot manage my continuous meetings, jumping between projects, especially when you're handling portfolios with different client bases. You are at different stages of different stages in your projects, multiple projects at the same time, multiple escalations. Again, there's a lot of great tools that are there, and all what it requires a bit of experiment, mentorship, and coaching by those who are well versed could help you pick up those tools quicker.
I think that sort of starts to answer my follow-on question, because it's almost like there's so many tools out there at the moment. You don't know which way to turn, and you don't know which is good and bad. And obviously I've seen the best AI tools to do X, Y, Z. And you're mentioning a younger generation and mentoring. Have you literally had to sort of go through that step to work out which tools that are your preferred ones, as it were?
To be honest, I think that's a fantastic question. One of the most important aspects for me to pick up those tools, and obviously trying to prioritize, because so many out there, by actually picking up those who have used it and talking to people. So, for example, one of the people that I enjoy listening to and working with, because they can actually help you pick up some of those tools, is Ricardo Vargas, right, in the project management community. Him and another gentleman by the name of Antonio.
Yeah.
Right, they are actually doing a lot of great work in the area of introducing AI, bringing in more focused tools in the area of project management. They are working on the PMauto.ai, which is again a fantastic tool for project managers. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to do is stay close to, for example, accelerator programs, entrepreneurial communities, stay close to a number of graduates who have actually come in with startup mentalities, because those guys are trying to use all the shortcuts that they have in order to prepare their pitch decks, look at their timelines, look at their forecasts, financial forecasts. And these are the key skills as project managers we require.
Yeah, no, and I'm very happy that you mentioned Ricardo there. He's been a previous guest, and probably by the time this is published, we would have had our panel event where Ricardo, along with a couple of other people, should be telling us their latest views on it. So thank you for name checking. If I just go back to one of the other questions I had about one of the challenges, and maybe it's not something that's on everybody's mind today, but I think it will increasingly become on everybody's mind, and it's the angle, right at the beginning you mentioned ChatGPT and BART and these other LLMs, as it were. Are you concerned at all about public versus private LLMs and feeding your data into there? What's your views of that type of challenge?
Absolutely. I'm very concerned, and I think a lot of the communities that I'm part of actually are becoming more and more aware of the requirement for privacy and information security and whatnot. So, I mean, to be honest, looking at some of the great institutions that I've mentored or have been part of on a voluntary basis, like, for example, neonative.ai, is a great institution that is trying to look at all the different challenges when it comes to privacy and information security with AI, ethical AI. There's a lot of, obviously, language models that are coming up that are becoming more and more kind of more and more visible, but at the same time, it encourages people to start thinking about the actual requirements for security and private versus public. So obviously, most of the examples that I've shared with you are actually public AI portals that have been either tested or being investigated or have been used by entrepreneurs or project managers. But definitely some organizations, when it comes to an enterprise level, are actually looking at building their own LLMs within the actual their enterprise based LLMs, private instances that allows them to actually go through all the documentation and processes that they've had in order to actually measure or get data through some of those AI algorithms on a private instance basis. But again,
Yeah.
it's a big discussion. Yes, a lot of people are talking about it, and that brings in obviously the concepts of data security and whatnot.
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be a transient conversation, as in people are starting to resolve it already, and mixing publicly available with your own private stuff. I think it goes back to, it's still nascent, it's still really early days, and I'm sure we're going to get it. I also 100% concur with your point here. There's over the next couple of years, this whole responsible AI area, I think, is going to become increasingly great. Having said that, again, this is my personal view, Mazin. I think it will be like a kite mark. Do you remember when Wi-Fi first came out? You had to have the Wi-Fi kite mark. Now we don't even look at that. It's just there. And I think it's going to be exactly the same with AI. It will be a default requirement that it's got to have this sort of level of mandated. But that's my personal view anyway,
Absolutely, and I completely agree. I've been working with Saudi data artificial intelligence authorities and a number of entities like Mohammed bin Zayed AI University. And to be honest, it's going to come a time will come that this is mainstream, right? That you don't, ethical and responsible AI is going to become part of the processes, right? The process. So I've seen a lot of great research and a lot of great discussions that are coming out specifically on the area of responsible AI, especially when you are talking to institutions that are researching and asking the questions: Are we safe? Is this data authentic? Is this data referenceable? Is there a lot of garbage in this data?
Well, exactly. And I think in particular, this is where probably governments and states have a role to play. But even then, I think it's going to be challenging because, technology is cross states. So in the UK, there's a whole AI strategy that's been published that is saying that's what we want to do, but how you govern it, I think, is going to be interesting. So until there's a sort of worldwide platform there, maybe, an organization like PMI, that's perhaps where they could come in, because it has such a global stretch, and certainly, Gravely as a provider, I think needs to be part of that journey as well. But it's great to hear that you guys are already thinking about that, already talking about that. So we've sort of touched on some of the complexities and the challenges around implementing AI. Is there any others that you think are worthy of noting?
I think making it kind of taking the discussion now to look at industry relevance, right? And elevating some of those pain points, because I do a lot of projects in the area of healthcare, for example. Are we doing enough to kind of bring those use cases and spur up all these great tools to actually resolve to make us resolve challenges? And that's one of the biggest, I think, exciting parts, is to actually take this AI LLM capabilities and bring the use cases right to the industry. So and I think what I like about this is there's a lot to be done. So for example, being part of this entity called the Neonative, where they are looking at generative AI acceleration, they are now looking at, for example, perhaps bringing in use cases in startups that actually could develop LLM models to actually tackle certain aspects. So for example, Fireflies or Read.ai, these are note-taking AI capabilities that allows you to take notes while you are, while you're in calls and virtual aspects. So people now are trying to use LLM models to see if we can take voice recognition into actual meetings. So instead of you actually waiting for a virtual meeting to take place, why don't you come in an in-person meeting, put an app on your mobile, and that app will record everything while you are actually talking to in an in-person meeting, and translate that voice to voice recognition capabilities, voice to text capabilities into realities, where you actually now are expanding those use cases for specific needs, industry focused, taking some of the AI tools that came on, what I call wave one AI tools, take that in and try to prove more use cases, bring in more abilities and capabilities on the ground.
Well, totally. And things like breaking language barriers down or summarizing those conversations. I can see all of that sort of stuff. I'm sure there's some people working on that as we speak. I love the phrase that you're talking about, wave one AI capabilities. You're the first person that said that to me, but I get that. And I think, again, from an audience point of view, I think we'll find some people are really embracing what we're talking about and maybe coming out of the back of wave one and thinking about wave two, as it were. Others have probably not even entered wave one yet. And I think for me, this is one of the key messages I'm hearing here, which is, get on your bike, start experimenting, listen to the younger generation and work forward. It's fantastic, Mazin. In terms of other barriers, I mean, I think you're probably the first one, and given your knowledge, I'm sure I'm going to feed you this now. But most people say, oh, it's about data and the restrictions of data and be able to move on from that. Is there anything you want to add to that debate, as it were?
Absolutely. I mean, the use of AI wouldn't be the case if it wasn't for actually where this AI algorithm should run on, right? AI does not run out of the blue. It needs data, and people are actually now started to understand the importance of data quality, data sovereignty, data consistency and cleanliness. Right? Yes. Because garbage in, people have started talking that lingo now. And again, different industries respond differently, I guess. But it's a beauty when you see now lagging industries, and healthcare is a lagging industry in some sense when it comes to, okay, we have all this data and all these documentations, all our processes are paper-based, right? And those are basically huge amount of either paper or documents in Word and PowerPoint that sit in somebody's hard drive. How are you actually, number one, validating and ingesting this data? And number two, how are you actually ensuring the quality of this data? So people started thinking, if I just tell you about, for example, the project management office we had back in my days in Dubai Health Authority, I mean, the amount of documents that get stored in hard drives are enormous, right? So what is the capabilities of bringing all this information into one repository in order to actually work on it, try to actually build some sort of a mechanism to take this data, go through the quality check, go through the actual quality check and auditing of the data to know if it's actually ingestible or not, if you can actually generate insights out of it or not. So again, that's a huge question mark when it comes to breaking the barriers. So, for example, do you have to relax some of the data governance laws that you have in order to start researching? How much anonymization and de-identification do you need to actually have in order for you to play more AI and LLM models on that? So a lot of people actually, a lot of industries are revising those strict and stringent restrictions and try to see, okay, we need to have a data quality and data architects and data big data designers and cleaners to actually start bringing in, looking at all the data, whichever format we have, and look at the policies that we have for managing data, which is, again, people never paid attention to because it's been something that people haven't utilized in some time until this huge push for AI tools and capabilities, and that brings us back to square one. What are you doing with the data?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of confusion out there as well, and it goes back to our brief conversation about standards as well. I think there's a lot of people that I don't know whether scared is the right word, but they're not quite sure about, and this LLMs around public data and what can we use and what can you bring into your environment, all of that sort of stuff. But the headline there is, what is your data strategy? I think just moving the conversation on briefly, you touched on it earlier about it releases you to focus on the more humanistic parts of projects as well. And again, I don't know whether you want to pick on that point at all, Mazin, about hopefully that's the point of all of these tools, that it empowers us.
That's right. And I mean, I believe data standardization and basically the fact that people actually have not utilized the data to the maximum in order to prep their data capabilities for building AI tools and the actual policies and governance that has been built. So and I think what AI is bringing a lot of industries to is the reality of where are we when it comes to our data governance, because we don't know if we've done any sort of data audits or data checks. Have we standardized? Do we look at our fields and communicate our need for data cleansing, data standardization, data audits, and what AI has made us think about is there is a lot of requirements when it comes to the actual need for looking at our data governance rules, standards, policies, and whatnot. So yes, it's a barrier, but I think it's a potential opportunity for industries, organizations to relook their internal processes on how to handle data, bring in the right competencies, because don't forget, competencies is what they require in order to manage and sort out their data.
Yeah, thanks, Mazin. I'm not just saying this. I think we could probably talk for the next hour or so. So in the interest of trying to keep to time a little bit, I'm just going to ask you two last questions, if I may. First of all, what you're painting there is so exciting, and as we touched on, it sounds like you're well advanced in this world compared to the norm, shall we say? What in your view, why aren't other businesses, up to the same rates that you are? What is stopping businesses adopting AI at a more rapid rate?
I think number one is the lack of competencies, right? The lack of competencies and skill set. There is a lot of need in the market for skilled data analysts, specialists, data scientists, because before you start bringing in the AI and algorithm experts, you actually have to have those data experts look at your data and the contingency of how you cleanse your data. Number two, I believe it's the requirements of monetizing this data. Is it in their strategy? Those enterprises or corporations, how big their data element of their strategy? How important is their focus on their data? I mean, a lot of people would actually strategically look at, for example, revenue generation, right? And was part of the revenue generation is actually monetizing your data, monetizing your data by building AI algorithms on sound and clean and standardized data that allows you to generate insights and generate knowledge that you can then monetize, right? So how big is your data element or component of your strategy as an enterprise? And a lot of people think of it as just as a requirement. A technology is still under your IT department or CIO. Some entities actually don't see the governance part, where they actually look at building a function within that enterprise or that corporation that looks at data. And you see that by leveling the maturity of your corporation or your enterprise. Some industries require the companies to respond quickly and elevate and come into the world of Web3, metaverse. If you don't clean up your data, you'll not be able to do that. You will not be able to pivot. So you have to crawl before you walk, right? If you don't crawl, you don't walk. And that's what I see. A lot of companies lack that vision into their strategy. They look at revenue generation quarterly, and they look at, for example, maybe just staying above the water because of the VUCA environment that we live in, right? Because of the the inflation and the continuous interruption to the industries that we have. But some of them actually think beyond that and see this as an opportunity. So again, I guess the competency, the skill set, the actual strategy focus, is it part of your revenue generation to look at you internally on how you actually bring in your data? It's do you have the right governance structure to transform your organization to be a leader in your industry?
Yeah, you heard it here first, people. An AI and data strategy. Get on that boat, right? As quickly as possible then, Mazin, your last one big takeaway from this conversation, if I may.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
look, my takeaway is one last thing, right? So I look, AI always depends on going back to basics, right? You want to be an AI enabled organization. Where's your data? Number one. Number two, basically looking at your internal strengths. You need to always stay ahead of the game, and staying ahead of the game makes you an AI mature organization that allows you to pivot. And finally, competencies. Are you investing in driving your staff to a higher level of competency? Is it your specific focus? Is it part of your strategy to stay competitive in your industry? Then you'll always have to start with your basics. Look at your data. Where can you take this AI to the next step? It's an enabler. It's not an actual. Destination. It's a journey.
Yeah, love it, love it. Mazin, thank you so much for the conversation today. Like I said midway through, I know that we could have carried on talking for longer. So, but thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you ever so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you.